My mom didn't sit me down for a talk. She dragged my suitcase onto the driveway, popped it open, and started tossing my clothes into a plastic trash bin like she was taking out yesterday's leftovers. I stood there in my work shoes, still smelling like coffee and syrup from the brunch shift, watching my life land in a pile next to the recycling. I'm Harper, I'm 24, and that bedroom was the only reason I could afford to stay and help run my family's little diner. But my mom didn't even look me in the eye when she said it. "You're an adult. You don't deserve to be here anymore. Your brother's wife needs this room. You're just in the way." Behind her, I could see a pair of perfectly manicured hands touching the window frame, already imagining it as a studio, a backdrop, a prop. No one asked where I was supposed to sleep that night, how I was supposed to finish my online classes, or who was going to run the social media and the delivery apps that kept the diner from going under. My brother walked past me, grabbed another box, and said I was being dramatic when I flinched as my laptop almost hit the ground. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't throw anything back. I picked up what was left of my stuff, put the rest of it on the curb, and walked away without saying a single word. 2 weeks later, before sunrise, they were the ones standing outside my door with swollen eyes and shaking voices, asking me to save them. And the first thing I did was reach for my phone and say, "Hi, I think there are some strangers causing trouble outside my apartment. If you think that sounds cold, wait until you hear what happened in between." I did not cry on that driveway. I waited until I was in the back of an Uber, watching the house I grew up in shrink in the rearview mirror, before I let myself feel anything. My friend Nia opened the door to her tiny downtown apartment in an oversized hoodie, hair in a bun, eyes wide when she saw me standing there with 2 bags and a trash bag full of clothes. She did not ask what happened. She just said, "Take my bed. I will take the couch. We will figure it out tomorrow." The next morning, when the sun came through the cheap blinds and my back was sore from sleeping wrong, reality finally hit. My entire life had been wrapped around that diner and that house. I knew every regular's coffee order, every holiday rush pattern, every stupid glitch on the delivery app. And in one night, my family had decided I was disposable. Instead of breaking down, I opened my laptop and started making a list. Every account I had created for the diner was under my email, my passwords, my work, the website, the Instagram, the TikTok, the email newsletter, the relationships with local roasters and food bloggers. All of it existed because I built it. My mom, Brenda, always said she was too old for that internet stuff, that I was the smart one. My brother, Tyler, had no idea what an ad manager even was. His wife, Madison, my brand new sister-in-law, thought posting selfies with latte art was enough to keep a business alive. I spent 12 straight hours cleaning up the mess they had made of my life. I logged into every platform, removed their access, changed recovery emails, and downloaded copies of all the analytics and reports I had ever done. I did not sabotage anything. I did not delete their pages or lock them out of their own business banking. I just took back what was mine, the things I had created and never been paid fairly for. When Nia came home from her shift at Coastal Grind, the big modern cafe she worked at downtown, she found me surrounded by notebooks and open tabs. She listened while I told her everything, from the trash bin on the driveway to the sentence, "You do not deserve to be here." She was furious on my behalf. She told me to blast them online, to expose exactly how they treated me, to let the internet drag them. But I shook my head. If I burned everything down, I would look bitter and unstable, and they would still call me ungrateful. I did not want to go to war on their level. I wanted them to feel what it meant when the person they treated like a maid and a backup plan simply disappeared. We checked my savings. Between my part-time work at the diner and my side gigs designing logos and running small ad campaigns for local businesses, I had enough to survive a couple of months if I was careful. Rent with Nia would be tight, but she insisted we would make it work. Then she said something that stuck with me. Coastal Grind has been trying to grow their social media and events. You literally built an entire brand already. Why are you wasting that on people who threw your stuff into a trash can? I went to their website that night, looked at their feed, their branding, their menu. It was good, but it could be better. And more importantly, they were the main competition to my mom's diner. Not because of location, but because of the kind of people they pulled in: younger crowds, remote workers, tourists. If I was going to start over, why not start right where it would hurt my family the most, without touching them directly? The next day, I sent in my resume, along with a case study I wrote in one sitting about how I grew my mom's diner page from almost nothing to being fully booked on weekends. I did not mention that my family had kicked me out. I just laid out numbers, strategies, screenshots. When Coastal Grind replied and asked to meet, it felt like the first breath after being held underwater. I was not planning a dramatic revenge montage. I was planning a career, a life where the work I did actually belonged to me. But deep down, I knew one thing. My family thought I was the weakest link. They were about to find out what happened when the person they called a burden stopped holding their world together. Coastal Grind did not feel like work on the first day. It felt like being dropped into a completely different universe. The place was all glass and plants and clean lines, light spilling in from the street, laptops open on every table. Nia met me at the door, tied on her apron, and introduced me to the manager. A tall guy named Blake with tired eyes and the kind of calm voice you only get after years in hospitality. He had already read my case study. He asked me 3 questions about how I handled negative reviews, no-show influencers, and last-minute menu changes, then said, "We could really use someone like you." They started me as a marketing coordinator, part-time with the promise of more hours if things went well. It was more than I had ever gotten in writing at my mom's diner. Within a week, I was planning our first Sunrise Sundays event series: soft jazz, specialty pancakes, and a limited-run cold brew flight that would photograph beautifully. I sat in the back office and pulled out all the tools I had once used for my family, this time with people who actually appreciated them. I built a content calendar. I optimized their profiles. I designed flyers and email blasts that looked professional instead of thrown together at midnight. And because I knew the neighborhood, I recognized usernames in the comments. Regulars who used to come to my mom's place started leaving little messages. "Wait, are you the Harper from Harbor Sunrise Diner? You're killing it here." One by one, they started dropping by Coastal Grind, just to check it out, then staying, then bringing friends. I never told them not to go back to the diner. I just made sure that if they chose between a place that ignored their DMs and a place that remembered their name and favorite drink, the choice felt obvious. While my life was shifting into something new, the old house barely texted me once. The one time my mom reached out, it was a blunt message. "What is the password to the diner's Instagram? I can't get in. Madison wants to post." I stared at the screen for a full minute. She did not ask where I was staying or if I had a job. Just about access. I typed back, "Those accounts are under my name and my business. You can make your own." Then I blocked her number. A few days later, Nia came back from a grocery run grinning. "You are not going to believe this," she said, falling onto the couch. She had run into one of our old neighbors near the house. According to them, Madison was already planning a massive makeover. She wanted to rip out the cozy old curtains in my ex-bedroom, repaint the walls white, add a full wall mirror, and build a customized vanity with built-in lights so she could film skincare routines and soft girl morning vlogs. The quote from the contractor was around $10,000. My mom hesitated for maybe half a second about the cost. Then Tyler stepped in. He told her it was an investment, that Madison's followers would bring in more customers, that the diner needed to look modern if it wanted to survive. I almost laughed when Nia said that part. Madison had maybe a few hundred followers and thought that meant she was an influencer. But my mom, who never understood how any of it worked, believed the fantasy. They pulled money from the diner's savings. The savings I had helped build by negotiating better deals with suppliers and running successful campaigns. I pictured them arguing over backsplash samples and ring lights, while at Coastal Grind I was pitching a collaboration with a local roastery that would actually bring in traffic. The first Sunrise Sunday sold out of the special cold brew flight before noon. People tagged us in their stories, sharing pictures of latte art and the view through the big windows. Blake watched the numbers and shook his head in disbelief. "You did all of this at your mom's place by yourself?" he asked. I shrugged. "More or less," he said. "Then this is just the beginning." The same week, one of our old delivery drivers stopped by Coastal Grind, wearing a different logo on his jacket. He told me he had been cut from my mom's diner when Madison insisted she could handle deliveries herself through friends and cheap apps. Service got slower. Orders got messed up. Someone left a 1-star review complaining the food was late and cold, and that whoever ran the Instagram account responded with a sassy comment instead of an apology. I knew that tone. It was pure Madison. I did not gloat out loud, but there was a cold little knot of satisfaction in my chest. They had wanted me gone so badly they threw my stuff in the trash. Now they were paying strangers to do a worse job than I ever did for free. At night, on Nia's couch with a blanket over my legs and my laptop balanced on my knees, I watched the numbers climb for Coastal Grind and wondered how long it would take before my mom realized what she had given up. I did not reach out. I did not check their pages, even though curiosity burned. I just kept building. Because the thing about pulling the keystone out of a structure is, you do not have to push anything else. You just wait and listen for the cracks. I thought the worst they could do was throw my stuff away and steal my bedroom, but apparently I underestimated how fast greed can snowball. A couple of weeks into my new job at Coastal Grind, Naya came home from a late shift, dropped her bag on the floor, and said, "Okay, you need to hear this." She had stopped by our old street to visit a cousin who lived a few houses down from my mom. According to neighborhood gossip, the studio in my old room had not been enough for Madison. Once the vanity went in and the white paint dried, she decided the lighting still was not content-friendly, and that the real money would come from building a full wellness spa. Not at a commercial property, not renting a space like a normal business, but right in my mom's garage. She wanted a mini sauna, a soaking tub, a massage table, and a corner for yoga and morning routine videos, plus a separate entrance so clients could come in without walking through the house. The contractor's quote for the garage transformation was $15,000, not including the furniture and decor. My mom apparently almost fainted when she heard the number. She tried to say they needed to be careful, that the diner's savings were already lower after the bedroom renovation. But Tyler, who had always been our golden boy, backed his wife like it was a war. He told my mom she was stuck in the past, that if she did not invest now, they would be left behind, that Madison's brand would put the diner on the map. I almost choked when Naya repeated that phrase. Madison's brand. This is the same girl who hashtagged every post with 5 different spellings of the word aesthetic. Still, my mom caved. She signed for a high-interest personal loan on top of tapping into the diner's emergency fund. She told herself it was for family, for their future, for growth. No one mentioned the fact that the person who had actually grown the diner's online presence enough to create an emergency fund in the first place was sleeping on a pull-out couch across town. While they were arguing over tile patterns, I was in the back office at Coastal Grind, building a proper loyalty program. I studied customer behavior, tested email subject lines, and negotiated a small sponsorship with a local podcast. When we launched our app and people started earning free drinks and brunch items, the response was instant. Our regulars became evangelists. dragging in coworkers and friends so they could rack up points. Every time my phone pinged with a new sign-up, it felt like another brick in my new life locking into place. Then the other shoe dropped for Tyler. To sell my mom on the spa dream, he had promised to use his connections at the showroom to get discounted equipment and fixtures. What he did not account for was how their management would react to his wife showing up at the showroom 3 times a week, filming loudly, rearranging displays for the background of her videos, and complaining to customers on live streams about how expensive everything was. His boss gave him one warning. When Maddie showed up again and started arguing with a coworker on camera about why the showroom would not give her a collab discount, they pulled Tyler into the office and told him he was done. Suddenly, the man who had told me to stop being dramatic when my laptop almost hit the concrete was unemployed and living off whatever was left in the diner account and my mom's loan. The neighborhood noticed the tension long before my family did. My old neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, came into Coastal Grind one afternoon with her granddaughter. She greeted me with a hug like nothing had changed and, after ordering, leaned over the counter. "I'm sorry about how your mom treated you, mija," she said quietly. "We hear them yelling at night. The young one, the wife, she screams about money all the time." My mom screaming I could picture. Madison screaming about money while posting haul videos in the same breath felt even worse. And the diner was starting to show the cracks. Their food still tasted good, but service times stretched. Phones went unanswered. Messages piled up in their inbox. Without structured promos, slow days stayed slow. A few of our Coastal Grind customers mentioned it casually. "We used to go there, but they take forever now. And whoever runs their Instagram is kind of rude." They kept describing responses that sounded exactly like Maddie, all fake sweet and passive-aggressive. I stayed quiet, just nodded and said we were glad to have them. I did not have to push anyone away from my mom. She was doing that herself by putting the future of her business in the hands of a girl who cared more about ring lights than regulars. At the same time, the bank started calling. Nia told me that one of her coworkers at Coastal Grind was dating a guy who worked at a local branch. He could not give details, obviously, but he mentioned in passing that plenty of small businesses were overextending themselves on renovations and influencer campaigns, especially older owners who did not understand what they were signing up for. I did not ask if my mom's name was on that list. I already knew. Late one night, as I was tweaking ad targeting for our next event, my phone lit up with a number I had not memorized, but still recognized. My mom had found a way to text me from a different phone. The message was short and cold. "We need help with the diner's online stuff. Send the logins." I stared at it until the words blurred. There was no apology. No question asking if I was okay, if I had somewhere safe to sleep, if I was eating. Just, "We need help." For a second, the old reflex kicked in. The good daughter reflex. Fix it. Save them. Make it easier. But then I remembered the weight of my suitcase hitting the driveway, the sound of my clothes rustling in a trash bag, my mother's voice saying, "You don't deserve to be here." I typed out one sentence. "I don't work for you anymore. You told me I was in the way. I hope you figure it out." Then I blocked the new number too. At Coastal Grind, our metrics kept climbing. Blake pulled me aside after our second sold-out event, showed me the revenue charts and said, "Whatever you need to keep this going, you've got it. Investments in better equipment, higher ad spend, expanded hours, all on the table." The contrast made me almost dizzy. One side of town, my family was drowning in debt they took on to chase a fantasy. On the other side, people were finally paying me to do the work I had been doing for free since I was a teenager. I was not sabotaging them. I was not hacking their accounts or lying to their customers. I was just no longer holding their fragile balance together. And without me, all the weight they had piled on top of their little world had nowhere to go but down. The thing about money problems is, they do not stay quiet for long. You can paint over cracks and light candles to hide the smell, but eventually everyone notices something is rotting. It started with little comments from customers at Coastal Grind. People would mention in passing that they had tried to support my mom's diner, but the wait times were ridiculous now, or that they had ordered online and their food showed up cold. One woman said she had messaged the diner's page about a wrong order, and whoever replied had basically told her to calm down and stop being entitled. I did not have to guess who wrote that. Madison treated customer complaints like personal attacks on her brand. While she was arguing in Instagram DMs, the bills at home kept stacking up. The first big hit came when my mom went back to the bank to request another loan. The renovation for my old bedroom had gone over budget. The garage spa project was bleeding money. Tyler had been out of work longer than he admitted, and my mom had been using credit cards to pay vendors when the diner's cash flow dipped. She walked into that bank believing that because she had once been approved, they would help her again. Instead, she came out with a letter saying no, too much existing debt, not enough collateral, income unstable. The interest on the loan she already had was climbing, late fees were kicking in. According to what I heard later through Nia's endless chain of cousins and coworkers, my mom went home that day and tried to cancel the garage renovation outright. It was not that she suddenly became financially responsible. It was that she felt the ground finally wobble under her feet. But by then, it was too late. Madison had already ordered half the furniture and equipment on a credit card my mom had co-signed for. A gleaming chrome cart for skincare products, a fancy towel warmer, fake plants and minimalist wall art, glass jars for bath salts. She justified every purchase as for the business, but nothing made it into actual paying customers' hands. She filmed unboxing videos and morning routine reels in spaces that were still full of construction dust. Tyler, desperate to feel like the man of the house again, backed her on every swipe. "It is going to pay off," he kept saying. "You have to spend money to make money." Meanwhile, the diner was hemorrhaging reputation. Without a consistent social media strategy or decent customer service, slow days stayed empty. Food took longer as they tried to cut labor costs. Deliveries got delayed because Madison tried to manage routes herself around her filming schedule. One of our old regulars, Mr. Jacobs, a retired teacher who had been eating pancakes at that diner since before I was born, showed up at Coastal Grind one morning. He sat at a corner table, ordered coffee and a breakfast sandwich, then looked at me with something like guilt in his eyes. "I tried," he said. "I really tried to stick with your mom. But that girl she hired, the one always filming herself, she made me feel like an inconvenience for asking for my eggs to be reheated." His voice cracked on that last word. I refilled his cup and thanked him for being honest. I knew he was not the only one who felt it. When I finally broke down and checked the diner's page from a burner account one night, the change was brutal. Grainy photos, messy captions full of typos, defensive replies to negative reviews. The cozy neighborhood spot I had spent years polishing into something people were proud to tag looked like a parody of itself. While their digital presence crumbled, things inside the house were getting ugly. Hushed fights turned into screaming matches. Neighbors who once sat on their porches and chatted in the evenings now closed their doors and turned up the TV. The police were called at least twice when Madison went on loud rants about money and loyalty and how no one appreciated her sacrifice. The same woman who had looked at my old bedroom and saw nothing but a blank canvas for her videos was now surrounded by half-finished projects and unpaid invoices. My mom, who had once prided herself on being a good neighbor and a solid small business owner, was becoming the woman people whispered about and avoided. And in the middle of all that, she still tried one more time to use me as a tool. She knew my numbers were blocked, so she cornered Nia after a shift one night, waiting outside Coastal Grind like a customer, but not coming inside. She asked how I was, When Nia said I was fine and working hard, my mom did not ask where I was living or if I needed anything. She went straight to business. She told Nia the diner was going through a rough patch and that Madison was still learning social media. If Harper just comes back to help with the online stuff for a while, she said, we can get through this. She can stay in the guest room until things settle. The way Nia described it later made my stomach twist. That casual assumption that I would come running back to the same house where my belongings had been dumped into a trash bin, as if nothing had happened, as if she was doing me a favor. Nia told her no. She told my mom that I was building something new, that I had a job where people respected me, that I was not coming back. My mom's face went hard. She said I was being dramatic, that family forgives and moves on, that I should not hold a grudge over one bad day. When Nia told me all of this, I did not cry or scream. I just felt a kind of exhausted clarity. My mom did not miss me. She missed what I had done for her. She did not want her daughter back. She wanted her unpaid social media manager back. At Coastal Grind, things were moving in the opposite direction. Our app numbers were climbing. Our events were selling out. I convinced Blake to hire back the old delivery driver my mom had let go. He knew the neighborhood, knew the people, and he was thrilled to be treated like a human being instead of a disposable service. We added more routes, including one that looped right by my mom's diner. Customers in that area started ordering from us instead because our food arrived hot, on time, and with a thank you note in the bag. I made sure every interaction felt personal, not fake influencer personal, real. When the landlord of my mom's building finally sent an official notice about late rent and potential eviction, the news rippled quietly through the neighborhood. Commercial landlords in that part of San Diego do not play around. They tolerate a lot, but not repeated late payments and obvious financial chaos. My mom tried to stall him, promising things were turning around, that they just needed a little more time. But the numbers on her ledger did not care about promises. Standing in the back room of Coastal Grind, watching our revenue charts climb while hearing through the grapevine that my childhood home and my mother's livelihood were on the brink, I felt something I am not proud of and will not sugarcoat. Relief. Not because they were suffering, but because for once, their choices were finally catching up to them instead of landing on my shoulders to fix. I had spent years being the invisible net under their bad decisions. Now, for the first time, I had stepped aside. And as cruel as it sounds, there was a dark, quiet satisfaction in knowing that the fall they were feeling was not my fault. It was gravity. The notice on my mom's diner door went up on a Tuesday. It was a plain white sheet of paper with black printing, the kind landlords use when they are done asking nicely. According to what Mrs. Garcia told one of our baristas, my mom pretended it was a misunderstanding at first, said the check must have gotten lost in the mail, said she would sort it out by the end of the week. But there was nothing left to sort. The loan payments, the renovation bills, the credit cards, the late rent. It all came due at once. The bank would not extend anything. The contractor wanted his money. The landlord, a man who had owned half that strip of shops for as long as I could remember, had already lined up a new tenant in case my mom defaulted. That tenant was Coastal Grind. Blake had mentioned a possible expansion a few weeks earlier, nothing concrete, just an idea. We were bursting during peak hours, turning away people on weekends. When he asked me where I thought the perfect second location would be, I did not hesitate. I told him about the corner where my mom's diner sat, about the foot traffic, the parking, the history. I did not mention my last name. I did not say, that was my childhood. I just laid out the numbers, the demographics, the potential. Blake did his own research. The landlord confirmed my mom was behind and struggling. He saw an opportunity to replace a failing tenant with a thriving one. Business is cold like that. By the time the eviction notice went up, the lease with Coastal Grind was already being drafted. I did not have to sign anything. I just watched the emails roll in, the plans for renovations that actually made sense, an updated kitchen layout, better seating, real investment backed by real revenue. On the other side of town, my mom's life was folding in on itself. The house I grew up in had a second mortgage hanging over it. Between the loan for the bedroom studio that never really took off and the unfinished garage spa, there was almost no equity left. Tyler and Madison were fighting daily. She screamed about how he had ruined her chance to be a wellness influencer, how his family was dragging her down, how she deserved better. He yelled back about her spending, about her attitude, about the way she talked to my mom. None of them mentioned me until it was time to assign blame for the online mess. Then, suddenly, everything was my fault again. If Harper hadn't taken everything with her, if Harper would just come back, if Harper cared about family at all. When the final deadline on the lease passed and the landlord told my mom she had to be out by the end of the week, reality finally snapped into focus for them. The diner was gone. The house, with no steady income to support its mortgage and mounting bills, was next. They sold what they could: furniture and appliances and the sad, unused vanity lights from my old bedroom. Tyler picked up shifts as a delivery driver for whatever app would take him. Madison tried to pivot her content to raw, honest struggle, but her small audience wasn't interested in watching her complain from a cramped motel room instead of a curated backdrop. By the time they showed up at my apartment, they were out of options. It was 2 weeks after the eviction notice, just before dawn on a Sunday. I had fallen asleep on my couch after working late on a launch campaign for the new Coastal Grind location. At first, I thought the pounding noise was a dream. Then I realized someone was leaning on my doorbell and hitting the door with their fist over and over. My heart jerked into my throat. I grabbed my phone, crept toward the door, and checked the peephole. My mom was there. Hair messy, eyes swollen, wearing a jacket I had never seen before. The kind of cheap, thin thing you buy when you did not plan to be out in the cold. Tyler stood next to her, shoulders slumped, dark circles under his eyes. Madison hovered slightly behind them, arms wrapped around herself in a sweatshirt with the logo of a gym she no longer went to. There were suitcases and plastic bags piled at their feet. I did not open the door. I slid the chain lock in place, even though I know a deadbolt was already engaged, and cracked it just enough to hear my mom's voice. "Harper, please," she said, and for a second she sounded like the woman who used to make dinosaur pancakes for me when I was 6. "We need to talk. We made mistakes. Just let us in so we can explain," Tyler added. "We were wrong, okay? We were wrong about you. We lost the diner. We lost the house. We don't have anywhere else to go." Madison stayed quiet, but tears were streaking her mascara. It would be a lie to say I felt nothing. My stomach twisted, my chest ached, my heart pounded so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. These were still my blood, still the people I had spent most of my life serving in one way or another. But I also remembered the trash bin, the sound of my suitcase hitting the driveway, the sentence, "You don't deserve to be here." I thought about how many times they had reached out only when they wanted something fixed, something marketed, something saved. Not once had any of them asked if I had a bed. Not once had they apologized without attaching a request to it. The pounding got louder as my mom's voice cracked. "Please, Harper." The landlord took everything. "We found out Coastal Grind is moving in there. Is that where you are working now? Did you know?" I took a breath, stepped back from the door, and dialed a number I never thought I would call for my own family. When the dispatcher picked up, my voice came out calm and flat. "Hi," I said. "There are some people outside my apartment building who won't stop banging on my door. They've been shouting and causing a disturbance. I don't know them. I'm alone, and I don't feel safe. Can you send someone to check it out?" The words tasted bitter, but they were not a lie. Not really. I hung up and went back to the door. My mom was still begging, her words starting to blur together. Harper, we need a place to stay, just for a little while. You can help us get the diner back. You know how to talk to people, how to fix things. You're good at this. You always have been. Tyler finally looked straight at me through the narrow gap. You don't understand what it's like out there, he said. Motels? Side jobs? Everything is so expensive. We're family. You're supposed to help. That was the moment something in me went very still. I opened the door just enough for them to see my face clearly, the chain still across. I held their eyes as I spoke. You're right about one thing, I said. I am good at this. I am very good at fixing things. That's why Coastal Grind hired me. That's why. Starting next month, there's going to be a brand new cafe in the exact spot where you threw my future in the trash. My mom blinked. What are you talking about? The landlord needed a new tenant, I continued. He wanted someone stable, someone growing. Blake asked my opinion. I told him your location was perfect. We signed the lease. We are gutting the inside and turning it into something better. Madison's face twisted. You stole our business, she snapped. You ruined us. I shook my head. No. You did that when you spent more on ring lights than on payroll. You did that when you fired good people and insulted customers. All I did was stop holding your world together for free. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, getting closer. My mom sagged against the doorframe, suddenly looking older than 50. I never wanted this, she whispered. I just wanted you kids to have more than I did. Then you should have started by not throwing away the one person who already knew how to build something, I said quietly. The flashing lights turned the hallway blue and red. An officer stepped out of the elevator a moment later, hand resting lightly on his belt, expression professional. Is everything okay here, ma'am? I opened the door just enough for him to see my mom and siblings, then stepped back. They've been here banging and yelling for a while, I said. I asked them to leave. I don't feel safe letting them in. My mom stared at me like she did not recognize the person standing in front of her. The officer kept it simple, asking them to move along, reminding them they could not loiter in the hallway or disturb other tenants. There was no dramatic arrest, no handcuffs, just a quiet, humiliating walk back down the corridor with their suitcases and plastic bags. As they shuffled past me, my mom reached out, fingers brushing the doorframe where my hand had been. I'm still your mother, she said, voice breaking. I did not flinch. I just met her eyes one last time. You told me I didn't deserve a place in your home, I said. Now you know what it feels like to be on the other side of that door. Then I closed it, slid the chain back, and leaned against the wood, heart pounding, knowing that for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself over the people who thought I would always choose them, no matter how hard they pushed me away. The grand opening of the new Coastal Grind location felt like walking into an alternate timeline where my life had taken the right turn years ago instead of last month. The building was the same one I had spent half my childhood in, but everything inside was different. The greasy carpet was gone, replaced by polished concrete and warm wood. The old sticky booths had been swapped for bright tables, soft chairs, and a long bar facing the windows. There were plants in the corners, soft music playing, and the smell of good coffee and fresh pastries instead of burnt oil. The only thing that stayed the same was the way the morning light poured in through the front windows. The same windows I had once wiped down after school while my mom counted cash in the back. Now I stood near the entrance with a Coastal Grind badge clipped to my shirt and a tablet in my hand, watching people file in, some curious, some already loyal to our first spot. A few faces from my old life blinked when they saw me. Isn't this where your mom's diner used to be? One of them asked gently. I smiled and nodded. It is, I said. Things change. Life moves on. And sometimes it moves in the direction it should have gone in the first place. We had worked on this launch for weeks. Special menu items, local art on the walls, a fundraiser tied to opening week where a portion of profits went to a homeless outreach program downtown. It felt intentional, like we were putting something back into the city instead of just taking up space. Blake gave a short speech about small businesses and community and growth. When he thanked me publicly for leading the strategy, people clapped, and I felt my face go hot. There was a time when I would have shrunk under that attention, worried my mom would roll her eyes or tell me not to get a big head. This time, I let myself stand there and take in the sound. I did not invite my family to the opening. I did not send them pictures or rub anything in. I found out later from Naya that Tyler had picked up a job loading trucks in a warehouse on the edge of town. Madison left a few weeks after the motel episode, piecing together a half-believable story online about needing to prioritize her mental health while quietly following a guy with a bigger paycheck to another state. Her accounts went quiet after that. No more unboxing videos, no more morning routines, just a final post about fresh starts that got fewer likes than she hoped for. My mom ended up in a small apartment a few miles away from the old house, the kind with thin walls and a balcony just big enough for a folding chair. She got a job as a line cook at a chain restaurant, flipping burgers under someone else's clock, taking orders instead of writing her own specials on a board. Nia spotted her at a bus stop once, uniform in a plastic bag, staring at her phone like she was hoping for a miracle message that would set everything back the way it was. There were moments, sitting in the back office of the new cafe after close, when I thought about calling her, just to hear her voice, just to see if maybe losing everything had humbled her enough to listen instead of accuse. But every time I came close, the memory of that trash bin and the words "you don't deserve to be here" rose up like a wall. Love without respect is just a softer kind of control. I was done being controlled. Instead of pouring energy into fixing people who did not see my worth, I poured it into the community we were building. We hosted resume workshops for teens who wanted their first job. We ran donation drives for shelters. I started mentoring a couple of younger baristas who were interested in marketing, teaching them how to run basic campaigns and read analytics, so no one could dismiss them as just kids playing with their phones. One night, closing alone, I sat at a corner table and thought about everything that had happened, from the driveway to that hallway with the police lights. I realized the real revenge was not the lease, or the eviction, or even watching my family face the consequences of their choices. The real revenge was the life I had built that did not need their approval to be real. People love to say blood is thicker than water, like that means you owe your family unconditional loyalty no matter how badly they treat you. But here is what I learned the hard way. Family is not just who you share a last name with. It is the people who show up when you are standing in a doorway with 2 trash bags and nowhere to go. It is the friend who gives you her bed and takes the couch without making you beg. It is the boss who reads your ideas and sees potential instead of free labor. And it is you, choosing every day to protect the version of yourself that survived being told you were not enough. I am not saying you should cut off everyone the first time they hurt you. I am saying, pay attention to patterns. Pay attention to who only calls when they need you to fix something. Pay attention to who throws your future in the trash and then expects you to rescue theirs. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away without burning anything down and let people find out what their life looks like without you holding it together. It is not about being cold. It is about finally understanding your own value. So if you have ever been told you were a burden, or that you did not deserve to be where you were, ask yourself this. What would happen if you stopped apologizing for existing and started building something that was yours, even if it meant leaving them behind? And if you have your own story about family taking you for granted until it was too late, share it. Someone out there needs to know they are not the only one standing on a driveway with their whole life in a trash bag, about to choose themselves for the first time.